Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about the first panic attack I had, why that was so significant in my life, why it's so significant for many others who suffer from anxiety, because it really ingrains it's traumatic experience. That's really what it is, and why that traumatic experience snowballs later in your life and can pop back up unless it's really resolved, unless we deal with it, unless we pick it apart, examine it. Why did it happen? So I want to pick it apart in this episode. And it really began when I was sitting on the couch with my parents. We were watching a movie. It was Mission Impossible. And the movie was exciting. And I felt the sensations, strange sensations, shallow breathing, tingly sensations, rapid heartbeat. And I responded to it. I became so internal at that moment, recognizing the sensations, getting those what if thoughts, and then reacting to those sensations as if it's life threatening. But little did I know at the time, excitement and anxiety are two very similar sensations, almost identical. And so I misinterpreted that excitement to danger, because at that moment I got up, I ran out of the basement, ran upstairs, my parents followed, and I was having a panic attack. And they told me to put my head between my legs, and I did. I think they knew that I was going through panic. No, not panic exactly, anxiety and being overly excited, but they really didn't know it was panic at the time. So we were all in this unknown domain. And I was, because going through the experience, I was in this unknown territory. I didn't know why I ran out of the basement. I didn't know why I was feeling those sensations, why I was feeling the dizziness, the lightheadedness, the racing heart. So I was in unknown territory. It's like limbo, floating around, not knowing where you are. It's just so unknown to you, right? And it was unknown to my parents. And so at that point, my amygdala, the part of the brain that initiates the fight, flight, or freeze response, the part of the brain that keeps you safe, linked this situation, running away from the environment, the sensations, as being life-threatening, as being a predatory animal. So because I ran away, my amygdala was like, oh, Brad's running away. This situation, these sensations, this whole experience is a threat to his life. So I want to make a note of that so he doesn't fall into the same situation again in the future. It's there to protect you. But if we don't resolve that situation, if we don't pick it apart and analyze it and understand what happened, then we hold on to it and we repress it, we hold on to it, it becomes baggage. And so later in your life, and this is what happened to me, it reemerges, the dragon grows. That baby dragon, that baby panic attack at the age of 10 is growing. It's there. Later in my life, when I was at the mall with my ex-girlfriend, what happened was I felt the same sensation, and it became so reflexive that I responded unconsciously to the sensation, and I immediately had a panic attack. That's why a lot of people who have panic, they don't know what happened. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I don't know. Well, it became so reflexive. The amygdala reacted to the situation because it recognized, oh, we're back in this similar situation with the same sensations. I got to alert Brad and get him out of there. So I ran out of the mall to the entrance of the mall, and then I was sitting there and I was feeling overwhelmed and all panicky, and I phoned my parents. And so my parents became a dependency, a coping strategy, because when I first had my panic attack, they were there to reassure me and comfort me. And then later in my life, they became that dependency. So really pay attention. Who are you putting your dependency on? What are you dependent on? And I became dependent on my family for reassurance. And it really does become a popular coping strategy for those who are suffering from anxiety. So I developed this dependency towards them, and panic continued to snowball throughout my 20s. And I noticed that it continued to snowball the more I was in a chaotic state of mind. The more I was repressing things, the more the water was overflowing from the glass. Like the water in the glass is the baggage that is accumulating over time. So from the age of 10 to the next panic attack, not much water has accumulated, just a little bit from that first panic attack. But in my 20s, I was developing this really reckless lifestyle. I was living on Pleasure Island. I was ignoring responsibility, and all that water was filling up in my glass. And I was, repressing a lot of embarrassing moments from high school, not resolving situations between friends, relationships, getting into a negative relationship and then accumulating a lot of negativity in my life because of the habits, because of the lifestyle choices I was making. So the water kept growing and growing, and then it was overflowing at a time when I really suffered from GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, because all this baggage accumulated. I was walking around my everyday life with a huge sack of repressed emotional issues that I didn't know how to deal with them. And my body was telling me, hey, Brad, you got to deal with it through panic, right? My body was saying, hey, there's these unresolved underlying issues from your past, and I'm going to send you a message by giving you panic, giving you anxiety. Ruminating over situations from your past is a sign that you need to deal with them. Any negative thought that is over 12 months needs to be resolved. That's a sign that it needs to be resolved, that you haven't dealt with it yet, right? And so we become so disconnected from our bodies nowadays because we can sit in front of Netflix, we can go on social media, we can flip open our phones and go on YouTube. And there's the coping strategies nowadays is overwhelming. I can't imagine the generation under me growing up, going through high school with these smartphones. I just can't imagine that, because I didn't have those smartphones going through in my younger days, right? I didn't have those. And it's so easy to become disconnected from who we are. A lot of people don't want to sit with their thoughts. They don't want to sit with themselves. They don't want to stare out a window with a cup of coffee, with a tea, and just stare and be there in the moment. People can't do that. A lot of people can't do that. And there was a study, I don't know much of the study, but it went something like this. It's like 60% of people would rather get an electric shock rather than sit with their own thoughts, with their own minds. So it's an outrageous percentage of, I think it's like 50% of men and 50% of women, something like that. If they had to choose whether to get an electric shock or to sit with your own thoughts, they chose the electric shock. They didn't want to sit with their own thoughts, because things bubble up when you're sitting with yourself. Things will come up. And so things came up later in my life when I suffered from an anxiety disorder, because the glass was overflowing. My whole unconscious mind was just filled with unresolved emotional issues. And that's the thing, is that when you go through anxiety recovery, you build up healthy beliefs by acting out, right? When you start to confront these underlying emotional issues, when you start to pick apart your past and confront and go to places that you don't really want to go, you build up healthy beliefs. So you become stronger, and people don't realize how strong they really are. Because I had a weak mind. I thought I was a weak person, unhealthy person. I always got sick all the time. And that's why I love David Goggins. He's an ultra marathon runner. He came from a really terrible place in his life. His story is just so unbelievable, going through 3 hell weeks in a year in the military. And he discovered how strong his body really is, that he can run 100 miles in 24 hours. And he discovered that through like this hard discipline and really setting small enough goals and reaching them. And he built up this strength in his mind over time. And that's what recovery is all about. Not running 100 miles, but really setting small enough goals and then reaching them and discovering that you're capable of much more than you think you are. That you can handle situations that make you panic. That you can survive those situations. And so when you begin to realize that you can survive, the amygdala will start to associate those situations as being safe rather than predatory, right? You'll be the person, you'll embody the person that is capable and able to handle situations like those. And so you'll build yourself up. You'll look at yourself in the mirror as a totally different person. The more you develop yourself, the more you confront the situations that you don't want to confront. And that's what I do with my clients is I go through NLP techniques with them, which is tapping into the unconscious mind and replaying the events from their past and replaying the events and then play the events over again, but the way they would have done it instead. And then they start to attach safety. They start to attach power over control even over those situations, because now they see themselves as, oh, I can, cope with that. I can not cope, but I can deal with it. I can understand it. I can let go of it in the end. That's what happens, is you let go of the event once you confront it and once you understand it and once you realize that, it was a learning experience, that it grew you on some level, and then you can let it go and it frees that baggage. It empties the water of the glass. So anxiety for me was the best thing that ever happened to me. Right? Because now I'm healthier than I ever was. I went through pain and suffering for a moment, but on the other side of that, I'm healthier, I'm mentally stronger. I look at myself differently in the mirror. I have a lot more self-respect, like 300% more self-respect than I had a few years ago. And so anxiety recovery is just that. You're creating a new belief system. And you'll eventually look at yourself from a whole different perspective, a new perspective. And that's where I'm going to leave you on today's video. I hope this video has provided you with a lot of value. And leave a comment. When did you have your first panic attack? What was an early traumatic experience that you've had in your life? And it certainly has shaped you in some way. And it's important to really look at that experience from that perspective. What did you learn? And revisiting that experience is crucial to understand the where it all started from, right? And don't let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be the first to know. Namaste.